Welcome back. All right, welcome back, guys. So today we're gonna talk about why you feel alone in your marriage. The most painful kind of loneliness isn't being single, ladies. A lot of people they try to shame single people as only when loneliness kicks in. Actually, it's feeling alone while standing next to someone you love. It's waking up next to them, eating dinner together, raising children together. We're going to spend some time talking about why that happens in marriage today. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notification. Welcome back. So, yes, today we're going to spend some time talking about why you feel lonely in your marriage. All right, so sadly, a lot of people feel this way for years before they do something about it. Yeah, welcome back. So what does this look like in real life, right? It's waking up next to a person you love, eating dinner together, raising children together, looking like a normal couple to everyone else. You might even be couple goals to everybody else, right? And happy July 4th, by the way. Secretly, you're feeling invisible. Many people don't leave marriages because of one, betrayal. It's usually they leave because they spent years feeling unseen, feeling unheard, feeling lonely, feeling like they're alone in that relationship. All right, so imagine carrying the weight of your family every single day, right? As far as you're concerned, you're showing up, you're sacrificing, right? You're doing your best, you're giving, you're trying, and nobody notices. Yeah, nobody notices. Just imagine yourself in that space, right? Maybe you're in that space right now. Nobody sees how tired you are. Nobody sees the tears you cry in private. The marriage still exists, but the connection doesn't. That's when loneliness begins. It's something that Lola describes very well in this book, getmymarriageback.com. You can get it from there. All right, so today we're going to spend some time talking about that. Okay. Before we dive in deep, first of all, all of this starts with unmet need. I'm going to put unmet need over here. All right. All of this starts with unmet need. And while you're thinking about what does unmet need leads to, while you're thinking about that, let me tell you this real quick. Today's breakdown is going to be very important, but if your marriage is actively in a crisis right now and you cannot afford to wait for these daily streams to figure out how, to figure it place by place, just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery. Okay. Go there right now, book a one-on-one discovery session with me so we can map out your exact scenario privately. All right. So now, with that being said, unmet needs. It starts with unmet need. Today we're talking about why you feel alone in your marriage. You have a need, unmet. What does that lead to, right? Unmet need. We already know that disappointments don't happen without expectations, but hey, you're in a relationship, right? You're in a relationship with a husband, with a wife, so of course you're hoping to have some kind of fulfillment in that, right? So, but anyway, it leads to disappointment. We're just going to put disappointment on the board. Disappointment. Is that a double S? No, I think it's one. Disappointment. Yeah. It leads to disappointment. But what does disappointment lead to? What does disappointment lead to? Well, disappointment, some people say, hey, just communicate your disappointment. Well, I wish it was that simple. If it was that simple, everybody would be doing it, right? But usually, unfortunately, a lot of times people have tried their best to communicate and all that kind of, but let's just, for the sake of I'm describing to you right now, what I'm describing to you right now is actually called the loneliness loop. All right. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit. What happened? All right. Let's put that here. All right. So I'm describing the loneliness loop to you. All right. If you've been following us, you know that this kind of things, they follow a loop, a cyclical, vicious cycle loop, right? Yeah. So, and that's why people feel stuck. They get stuck in that situation for years, right? Hold on one second. All right. Okay, let me see here. If you have any questions during the course of this session, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and I will be happy to handle it. A comment, a session, anything like that. Somebody says, shout out to Big Tech, says, because you don't have Jesus in your life. Yeah, maybe, but what does that mean, really? You want to tell us what that means? Anyway, silence leads to emotional distance, right? You go silent on your partner, it usually leads to emotional distance. So it might even be your own coping mechanism, right? So you might not mind short term, even though the quality of your life could be better. But it leads to emotional distance, and we're talking about a marriage here. So why would you want to create a distance between you and your partner, right? That's not ideal, right? All right. So again, emotional distance is not a good thing. That's actually bad in a marriage, right? It might feel good short term. It might feel good because you don't have a choice. You needed to back off a little bit. It just seems like you're not getting anywhere with your conversations, right? And even if you have Jesus, there's another human being involved, right? And clearly there's a disconnect somewhere. The overall goal, the objective is unity, united front. Either you have Jesus or whatever you want to call it, as long as you have a united front, then you guys will be fine. Right? But oftentimes these issues happen when there's a drift, not necessarily because Jesus left your life, but because there's a drift between two imperfect human beings, right? So we need to dive in a little bit deeper. Emotional distance leads to what? It leads to, guys, it leads to resentment, right? Because at least one person, even if you're really comfortable being silent, because suddenly you feel as though your partner is further from Jesus. Why do I keep saying that? Sorry. Let's leave the religious stuff alone. Let's just focus on what we need to learn here, right? It leads to resentment, at least from one side, right? And that's not a free ride. It might look like it's free temporarily, but that's not a free ride. That's going to eat up into the quality of life for you and your family over time. And it's even worse if you do it, you come back, you do it, you come back, Everything seems fine a little bit, but you guys keep going back into it. Remember, we talked about why you keep fighting about the same thing over and over and over again. That's one of the previous classes that we did here. Go find it and watch it. There's a reason for that. So when I say resentment, right, if you keep doing that over and over and over again, that's going to lead into withdrawal, right? Withdrawal. What's the difference between withdrawal and emotional distance? One is emotional, the other one is somebody is literally on their way out. All right, and that's not a vacuum. The idle mind is the devil's playground. That's something that the devil would tend to, or the enemies, adversaries, forces of evil against your marriage will take advantage of this type of withdrawal. That's not a good thing. Okay, again, some of this stuff will feel good in a short term. Eventually something has to give. What happens after withdrawal? What ends up happening after withdrawal, guys? Yeah, it was coping mechanism. Well, maybe you're the one doing the withdrawal. Maybe you just want your peace of mind. They should just leave you alone, right? Well, maybe the other person is doing it, and of course you end up in loneliness. Now, guess what is almost synonymous with loneliness? Guess what? Loneliness, if you're lonely in your relationship, right, are your needs going to get met? Probably not, right? So it's a cycle that keeps growing and growing and growing and growing until one day something has to give. So again, the reality is that loneliness starts long before separation. Most people only focus on the separation, but the reality is that loneliness, let me put that here, loneliness starts long before separation, sometimes for years. Loneliness starts long before the cheating. That's not an excuse for cheating. I'm just telling you other things that happen before cheating. That's all. But some of you can't help but to hear that in that way, right? Loneliness starts long before separation, before people start to argue. The only time they have conversation is when they argue, right? The only time they have conversations always accompany some level of sarcasm, negative, not banterful, negative, condescending words towards each other. Basically, all types of anti-seductive or anti-seducer behavior you can think of. Okay? Usually, these things, loneliness precedes all this bad behavior that you can describe happening in your marriage right now. And so why am I sharing that with you? It's very important that you know this stuff so that when you start to feel lonely, you're not just going to ignore it and say, hey, it's just another one of those faces. It's probably getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? One of my clients told me yesterday, she said, we live together, right? And the only thing that really put us together is the children. They basically live like roommates. And they still sleep in the same bed, not necessarily turning back to each other, but again, remember, there's an emotional distance here. That's where the loneliness is coming from, right? So emotionally, she feels like she's carrying life alone. So what's the point of doing that if you're inside of a marriage? Somebody said, well, you're responsible for your own happiness. Well, I have news flash for you. You're probably wrong. Okay? You're probably using that sentence out of context. To a large extent, yes, you should cater to your own self from a standpoint of happiness. But we're not going to pretend that, your environment also have an influence over your level of happiness, whatever that means, because it's a fleeting feeling anyway, right? So we're not just going to pretend that that's not a thing. Shout out to Leander Great. Hello. Zemena, shout out to you. Said it is not someone's job to fulfill you. This is immature and childish. Exactly. Well, just stay alone. If your husband or your wife comes to you, right, and they say, "Hey, I'm not happy in this relationship," just respond to them that you're immature and childish, and then come back to me and let me know how that pans out. Right? Now, match that against what your desire is. Whatever the result is, match it against your desire. If you're happy with the result, I'm happy for you. We're talking to people with broken marriages who want to fix it. How to save and fix a broken marriage, right? All by yourself, even when there's infidelity or you feel it's incompletely over. Today, we're talking about why you feel alone in a marriage. The key word there is feeling. We're talking about emotional distance. Very important. Emotional distance. Okay. Oftentimes, emotional distance is a feeling. Sometimes it's just a matter of open-mindedness, not the ideologies. Ideally, everybody will be self-sustainable, right? And you just figure it all out. Well, if you've done life enough, you understand, right? So when somebody say we live together, we raise children together, right? We sleep in the same bed, but emotionally they feel like they're carrying life alone. It's like, aren't you supposed to carry your life alone? Yes. But how is that feeling tampering with the quality of your marriage? That's really the question we're answering. We're not answering what is right and wrong, because that in itself is an anti-seducer. It's lack of game. Because if you understand game, right? When I say that, I mean if you have skills of influence, right? You would understand that while it is not your responsibility to make other people happy, it is in your own best interest, in your own relationships, to kind of pay attention to that. So that statement made by my client from yesterday, it captures what many people are struggling with. It captures the experience of many husbands and wives. What they get met with, well, that's your fault. It is you feeling that way. So, don't bring that to me until they hit rock bottom and then they start to run etta scatter, right? Somebody says, "Hey, I think we need to see therapist." And then you go, that's you not feeling happy in this marriage. Go and figure yourself out. Yeah. That's the experience of a lot of people, right? It's not necessarily abandonment from a standpoint of physically speaking. It's emotional distance. It's not divorce. It's people that are still in the marriage but feeling loneliness, guys. So with that being said, I want to move forward to start talking about the invisible effort loop. Yeah. So you're putting all you can put into the situation, right? You're trying your best. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you could be the person who is frustrated. You've tried to make your wife happy, but nothing seems to work. That can feel lonely too, right? That can feel lonely. So even after you've told them, like, hey, you're responsible for your own happiness, you go back to your own little corner in your basement, in your man cave, and now you feel lonely. What happens? The enemy is going to try to fill that space for you, because the ideal mind is the devil's playground. The invisible effort loop. You're applying effort, but no one can see it. Well, your partner can see it. It's not creating the results that you desire, right? The invisible effort loop, right? So you're giving. You've heard Allah say before, just give. When you go into a relationship, you give. Right? That's what you go into relationships to do, to give. Right? So what happens after giving? Right? This is another situation that people find themselves stuck in, right? So you give, right? You give. You can also, some people call it sacrifice. You feel like you're sacrificing your life, ladies. You feel like you've sacrificed your degrees, your career for this relationship, for this marriage. He can't see it. He can't see that far, right? All he sees is that he's working very hard. Rightfully so. He's working very hard. As a matter of fact, he might be seeing like the flip end of it. And you don't seem to appreciate anything. He's always talking about not being appreciated. But as far as you're concerned, no, you've given your life for this person. Right? You've given your life to take care of your kids. Today, we're talking about why you feel lonely in your marriage. Right? So, if you try to have conversation and then you get shut down with what is right and what is wrong and what is immature, right? Well, I'm not surprised if you show up and you now say you feel unseen. Guess what? Let me even slow down a little bit, right? I'm not surprised today because I've been through this and I know better, right? And obviously I teach this now, right? But there, once upon a time, I was the guy. I was the culprit. Yeah. If you read the book, you'll see where Lola was talking about how she cried herself to sleep every night. This is all within our 8th, 9th year. I didn't see it. So if she said I felt unseen, it's like, okay, does it make sense? Right? I didn't see it. I did not know that she was going through that. Panic attacks. I seen the panic attack. I didn't understand where it was coming from. Because as far as we were concerned, everything is fine. As far as I was concerned. Right? And of course, until you hit rock bottom. When somebody feels unseen, what happens next? What happens? Before I go into what happens, look, what I'm teaching you right now is a universal roadmap. This is happening everywhere, okay, from a pattern standpoint. But every marriage has its own unique hidden landmines. If you want me to look directly at your specific relationship blocks, I've been doing this for funny enough, it's exactly 8 years this month. Right? I've been doing this for a while, 8 years, right? In terms of teaching and coaching and helping people get results and live a better experience in marriage, right? If you want me to look directly at your specific relationship blocks, I have the experience. It's my 19th year in marriage, been with the same person for 23 years. All right? The ups and downs, the failures, the ditch, how filing for divorce, redeeming it back from there. I have the experience and I'm a student of the game perpetually. So in addition to all the results we're helping people get. So just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery. All right. And the link is also pinned to the description. And you can secure one of the discovery slots available this week. Some of you are realizing for the first time that it's not about what is right, what is wrong, what is immature. You married an immature person, right? It is about emotional distance. That's what loneliness is about. And I'm going to break it down even further for you today, right? The issue is identifying the patterns that are destroying marriages today. If it's happening so often, then there's something that we have. There's a lot more we have in common than we have differently. While it still has to translate to your unique stories, these principles are universal, and I hope you're getting value out of what I'm sharing with you here today. But mapping this to your specific story is exactly what we do in the discovery session. So just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery. Let's get back into the lessons. Why you feel alone in your marriage. Shout out to Shana Blow and Raptorate. Good to see you. So what happens after someone feels unseen? Right? I already mentioned it early on, but I'm going to repeat it because I need you to really take this to the bank. They feel unappreciated because from their standpoint, from their point of view, POV, they are giving everything they can give, right? They're giving everything they can give. So they're feeling unappreciated. Unappreciated. Right? If you have a wife or husband, right, and they're feeling unappreciated, do you always know? I mean, you might say always, but always is always a lie. If they're telling you, trust me, there's probably about 10 other times that they didn't talk about it. You only know about the time that they actually say it. That means 9 out of 10 times you can't see. Remember, unseen, right? You're living in the darkness, but life is moving, right? You're taking care of children. You're in a marriage. Everything is going. That's why some people often come back and say, hey, I did not see it coming. Yeah, you didn't see it coming. Anyway, after somebody feeling unappreciated, multiple cycles over and over again, years upon years later, what do you think is happening? Well, they're building resentment, right? Resentment is silent, right? This is secreting poison into that relationship, all without you knowing, right? There's fire on the mountain. All of this is happening in your household. You know, maybe you're the one feeling resentful towards your husband, your spouse at this moment. And you can testify to this, that this is not just a one-time event. It's something that happened over and over and over again. But you feel stuck in a loop and you don't know what to do, right? Yeah. So that resentment doesn't stop there, right? It leads to withdrawal. It leads to sexless marriages. It leads to prolonged dry spells, which create gaps, right? But I'm not going to put all that in this loop right now. Let's put one word, right? Withdrawal. Withdrawal. All right, I'm going to put one more thing here, right? I'm going to put one more thing here. And, if you've been following this series, you're familiar with this. So again, these are patterns, guys. These are patterns. These are patterns. These are not, I'm just going to put disconnect. Disconnect. Okay. So if you're feeling disconnected from your spouse, but you're still giving a whole lot of you're sacrificing, right? You're still giving and giving and giving, and you're sacrificing. You're feeling unseen. You're feeling unappreciated. You're feeling resentful. Withdraw, disconnect. This is not a good thing, right? It's not. It's not a good thing. And this is the place where a lot of people get stuck, right? Unseen people, what do you think is going to happen? Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think is going to happen eventually? I'll tell you what's going to happen. I'll show you what's going to happen. You see this thing that's looping back, right? Eventually, it's going to loop itself out. They're going to stop at some point. Okay? They're going to stop at some point. Something has to give at some point. See this giving that's over here? It's not going to be them that will give anymore. Something will give, right? Something will give way for something, because it's not sustainable. Does that make sense? And like I was saying earlier, there are seasons in marriage where the issue is not love. When people say love is not enough, I always push back, because I think it's still, at the end of the day, still the foundation of any good marriage. And I think people are just capping or cap out. They're looking to, it's a cop out when they say that. They're trying to say something else. They're not saying what I'm saying right now. But to be fair, maybe to a large extent, it all leads to the same thing. But when people start to check out in marriage, it's not necessarily because, it's not, the issue is not love, right? Because after you have a foundation of love in anything that we care about in life, anything that's worthwhile in life, there's more to learn beyond just right and wrong, beyond just be a matured person. Sorry to be picking on that word, but it's a good example, all right? There's more to that than just you sitting on that high horse, because clearly you're making a point that you're more mature than the other person. Well, how could you be more mature than the person you're romantically involved in? If you are, that still points fingers, much more fingers back at you. How did you end up with an immature person? If this is a point of contention, right? Sometimes people will say they never loved you. Like, how did you end up with a person that never loved you? Those are still fingers pointed back at you. Those are not the real issues in these marriages that are falling apart. The real issues really starts with it starts with lack of skills, lack of game, not knowing what we're doing. And it's not just you. All of us that got married, we got married not knowing what we're doing. We say I do, we didn't know what we're doing. Okay? But in this topic today, why you feel alone, the issue is visibility. And I'm talking, the point of view here is from an emotional standpoint, okay? And when your effort stops being seen, right, from your point of view, because they might just be busy with life, other things might be going on. I'm not giving excuses for them, but that's part of the things that needs to be assessed with respect to your unique story, right? But if your effort stops being seen, it eventually stops being offered. Something has to give, like I was saying. Something has to give way. Okay? Right? Years later, after we got married, my wife described it as she felt broken, she felt lost, right? She felt like she had lost her husband a lot of times, and best friend. That was the exact words she used. She cried herself to sleep. She suffered panic attacks. She felt emotionally lost. She was physically present, but mentally checked out at some point, because something had to give. And yeah, I was that guy too. At some point, like what's all this? Can you be matured? Like, we're adults here. We have real things in life to worry about. Well, until she filed divorce, then I woke up. Why did I wake up? Well, it's bigger than just her or me. Because now there are 2 children involved. There's my family involved. Everything that makes me feel fulfilled, that I was walking around with my shoulders so high, it's about to crumble, right? You think I was logical? I was being mature? No, that went out the window. At least for a quick moment before I got a good grasp of myself. Then I came to a place where I realized that I didn't know shit. The whole world would disagree with that, because I've always been this guy. Everybody looked up to me, right? What? Till today, nobody would ever believe that there was ever a moment of separation between the two of us. That's loneliness, guys. Not being alone being in the same house but feeling alone, sitting next to the person who promised to love you. I had my own moments too that I felt alone, you know. But how the genders would address that might differ from people to people, from group of people to people. How you were raised, how we handle that loneliness might differ from people to people. So it's very important that we take the time to really understand this stuff, guys. Okay. Now, I want to go into what is probably something you're probably more familiar with. I want to call it the roommate loop. Okay, let's call this one the roommate loop. Somebody that was supposed to be your homie, your lover, your friend. Now you guys live as roommates. The roommate loop. You know, usually in my client base, it's usually one person that feels that way. The other person is completely oblivious. They can't see it. They don't, which is exactly, that's why you don't feel seen, because the other person can't see what you might be going through, right? But nonetheless, it's bad. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed properly. It needs to be fixed from a place of it needs to be rooted. It needs to be grounded. You can't just call it out. Just call them out and hold them accountable. That shit don't work. I'm just telling you right now, okay? Up front. I'm just gonna tell you up front, okay? So in a roommate loop, this one will start with responsibilities. You got married, everybody knows their role. Just know your role. There's a lame person on TikTok that's always saying, just know your role. Just know your role. The husband should know their role. The wife should know their role. Okay, you're preaching to the choir. Okay, responsibilities. You're preaching to the choir. You're not saying anything new. You're not saying anything profound. Guess what? All of the roommate loop starts with responsibilities. Okay, what does responsibilities turn into? This is the part that nobody talks about. It turns into another R word. Routine. Boring. Routine actually, to a large extent, almost represents certainty, right? Certainty is a need of life. Certainty. We also have variety, right? The same human being that wants certainty also wants variety. So it's like, are we confused? Yeah, all of us were confused to a large extent, right? So where's the surprise here? Yeah, where's the surprise? You want certainty, your variety. So responsibilities, you got married, you got kids, right? So it turns into routine. Well, you feel safe. You know they're going to handle business. You know your wife is going to handle business like every day, right? But eventually, that turns into routine. Is that a good thing? There's nothing in this life that's absolutely good or bad. That's why when you turn around and say, I'm a good guy, I'm a good person, so I deserve a good marriage, who are you deceiving? Are you God? That's unrealistic. That's your first failure when it comes to unrealistic expectations. What does routine turn into, guys? Routine eventually leads to survival mode. You're just in survival mode, guys. Baby said, didn't see notification. Why? I don't know. Just keep engaging, no. But I didn't drop it in the backstage. Is that what you're saying? Good to see you anyway. Sorry, I didn't drop it in the backstage. We're building this and we want people that want it here. And I think the algorithm wants the same thing. Just try to unsubscribe and subscribe again. I think some people claim that works, you know. I have two. Who do for me though? Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you can elaborate, that would be nice. We're talking about why you feel alone in your marriage. Survival mode. If you get into survival mode, is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's not a good thing, I'm going to tell you, okay? It's not a good thing to be in survival mode in your marriage, meaning you're just surviving. You're in a marriage and you're about to do lifetime. And what you're doing, there's going to be phases of that, realistically speaking of maturity. You're going to have phases of that in any marriage where you're just surviving. But remember something I always give, you can't get stuck in that loop. Somebody's going to ask like, hey, I want quality time. Hey, can we go out on a date? Hey, can we do date night? Somebody's going to ask at some point, and they might be starving for it for a long time before they ask you. Why would you want to wait for that? That's the survival mode, right? Some people, the enemy will use that as opportunity to invade their relationship. That survival mode thing. Okay? So nobody's perfect, by the way, but just pay attention, right? So survival mode also means less friendship. So one of the points of leverage that I always share with you guys here is friendship. We have friendship, sex, expectations, and pride. Those four things, pay attention to those four things as much as you can. So, but anyway, this leads to less friendship. If you're in a marriage where there's no friendship, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Okay, it's a ticking time bomb. Because if you're not friends with your spouse, who do you think is going to be friends with your spouse? Who do you want to be the friends with your spouse? Chike, is that what you would prefer? Huh? Would you prefer Chike to come and be friends with your spouse? Less friendship leads to less connection, less intimacy. Another basic human need is connection. Matured or not, we all need to connect. Connection just in general. So of course, why would your romantic relationship with a lifetime spouse be different? Okay, so let me go ahead and put that on the board. Less connection, guys. Less friendship leads to less connection. Right? And of course, that leads to less intimacy. Intimacy does not always mean sex, right? It doesn't always mean sex, right? We're talking about at a deeper level, right? Less intimacy. Yes, hopefully sex involved as well, right? But we're talking about a deep connection, a deeper connection than just sex. So that leads to less intimacy. And guess what? That leads to let's put that big old thing here. That leads to emotional loneliness. And to be honest with you, when we're talking about loneliness in this topic, why you feel alone, we're talking mostly about emotional loneliness. Okay? And if you look at this roommate loop, it starts with responsibility. That's boring. If all you have is just responsibilities, if all you have, eventually that gets boring. If you don't have ways of of keeping things alive, keeping the spice alive, keeping the spark alive in your relationship, that leads to routine. It leads to survival mode. You're just floating through life. It's boring. Less friendship is boring. Let me put that on the board. Boring. Well, know your roles. Knowing your roles is like, you're preaching to the choir. There's nothing special about that. Okay? Their roles is a given. They're taking care of their roles, hopefully. And by the way, if they're not, if they feel more connected, the chances that they will handle their roles increases significantly. So it's like the question of is it the chicken before the hatched egg, or the egg before the chicken? Which one is more important? I probably just butchered that, but you get my point. It's like asking, I want to be nice, but really what I want to say is a stupid question. Which one is more important, the egg or the chicken? Right? I'm trying to be nice. I don't know I lost, for lack of better words, today. Okay? It's boring. That's the roommate loop that many marriages get stuck in. It starts with a good thing. Responsibility is supposed to be a good thing. How did it turn negative, guys? How did it turn negative? This is how. You're looking at right now on the screen. This is how it goes into routine survival mode. Less friendship, boring. Less connection, less intimacy, you're boring. They're supposed to just be an adult, a matured adult, right? Well, welcome to the real world. Okay? When you're in a romantic relationship, to a large extent, people are going to be children. They're going to go back to their child mode. Whenever they don't feel satisfied, whenever they don't feel their need is unmet, they're going to go back to that child mode, guys. Okay? Most marriages don't become enemies, they become roommates. Most marriages don't become enemies, guys. They become roommates. Okay? Ideally, what you're looking for is you want to feel seen, you want to feel heard, you want to feel understood, you want to feel valued. All of that leads to you feeling valued. When you feel valued, you have more to give. Then the chances that you will do your role increases. So something has to be done if you continue to feel lonely, if you continue to feel not valued in your relationship, emotional loneliness, right? You're going to miss out on feeling connection. You're going to miss out on feeling safe in that relationship. Ideally, you want to feel closer and closer and closer to your partner, hopefully, right? Yeah, that's what you're looking to achieve. All right. So it's work. If you're in this space in your marriage, it's gonna be work, but it's work that's worth it. Because we're talking about the rest of your life here, right? It's going to be worth it, because what's the benefit of being in a marriage where you don't feel connected to your partner, right? The only time you feel connected is when you take those pictures, those nice pictures for Instagram, right? Which a lot of people are able to tell, like, they can't feel the chemistry between the two of you. Well, everybody is skeptical now anyway. So even when you take a real authentic people are questioning it, because you know why? Because they're projecting. Because they don't enjoy a connection in their own marriage, so they easily assume that anybody that's taking picture is capping, and that's in addition to some people are actually truly capping. Okay, but today my goal is to make you aware, show you a little bit of what's going on here, right? But that awareness needs to go back into your marriage. How are you going to get that awareness to help you connect it, right, to getting your need fulfilled by the environment that you spend a lot of time in every day, without that person telling you that you're just being immature? Yeah. How are you going to finally get understanding? How are you going to finally build some level of trust where you can trust your partner? And then obviously that helps build intimacy. Okay. People rarely leave because of distance, guys. Let me show you this. Let me put this here. People rarely leave. People rarely put this here. Leave because of distance. You know why they leave? Distance, again, that might happen in and out realistically in a long-term relationship. right? Hopefully less and less, because if you know what you're doing, it should happen less and less. Initially, it will happen after your first 2 years, right? I'll tell you why people leave, guys. That disconnect can only last for so long. This is why people leave. Is the disconnect. Okay. Some people will stay in a relationship for years, disconnected, but it's a ticking time bomb, right? When your partner no longer wants to fix the issue, when they're indifferent, that's not a space you want to get into, guys. That's not the space you want to get into. And this disconnect space is what you're trying to avoid. All right. So if you want to go from roommates to homies, lovers, and friends. Roommate. This is roommate, guys. That's the roommate mode. You want to go from roommates to homies, lover, and friend. That's responsibilities, routine, survival mode, less friendship, less connection, less intimacy, emotional loneliness. Instead of that, you want to translate to feeling seen, heard, understood, valued, connected, safe, closer. Why? Because that we see everything on the right will still take care of the responsibilities. In fact, happily, right? In fact, joyfully, right? And obviously, it comes with more friendship, better connection, better intimacy experiences, right? And then you can keep loneliness far away from you. Okay. So, let me tell you something. You see, everything I showed you here, a lot of people, especially the roommate loop, is real. It's real. Before I wrap up, let me leave you with this. Okay. Let me leave you with this. If it seems like I'm telling your marriage story, don't stop guessing. Stop guessing. Every relationship has its own story, its own uniqueness, its own thing. So all you have to, that's why I'm offering the discovery session. It's a private session with you alone, and I'll spend 1 hour with you. At your own specific situation, we spend some time on that, and then find out what's happening in your marriage, so you can gain clarity for what the next best step is going to be. If you're ready for that, just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery. Okay. And that's getmymarriageback.com/discovery. The link is also pinned into the description. All right. So now, like I was saying, homies, lovers, and friends. The way I always say this, for me, I got into a point in my marriage that it wasn't intentional. Okay. There's no way it was intentional. But I forgot about the lovers part. I was still homies and friends, but the lovers part, the middle one, I kind of forgot about that. I lost sight of that. I became, I was oblivious to it, But that's the experience she described. But there was enough for me to know that, okay, that's how she felt, and we had to work on that, right? But it's not perfect. That's not the goal. It's to be aware that this happens, so that every now and then you find your way back to rekindle things and make sure that you're fueling and giving and and just continue to nurture what you care about. That's what it comes down to. Instead of claiming that you're more matured than your partner, just know that your partner is a human being like you. Just like you're oblivious, they too can be feeling unseen, unheard, and it takes skills, okay? And what we do here is we help overwhelmed, disconnected couples break free from the disconnect and rebuild real connection that lasts, okay? Some damages are greater than others. Nonetheless, just too many people are doing marriage without the necessary skills. Yes, like anything you care about in this life, it takes skills. Okay, you can't use common sense to do this stuff. You will end up in a what all the time. Okay, so if today's lessons has helped you, I hope so. I'd appreciate if if you like this video, share it with someone that would benefit from it. Share it with someone. They will be happy you shared it. Okay, and subscribe. Yes, just go to, if you're interested in talking to me, just go to getmymarriageback.com/discovery. Hopefully you've been enlightened, educated. Happy July 4th. See you soon. Take care. God bless.
Are you fighting to save a marriage or a relationship, or simply avoiding to end up in a broken or toxic one?
We've been there and you're in the right place. You see, inside this book, right, you will find and you will discover the secret to save a broken marriage, and you will learn how to build and attract the marriage of your dream.